So in this video we learn how to draw the graph of a quadratic by first of all finding some key features of the graph. So for this quadratic y equals x squared plus 2x plus 8, let's look at these features. First of all, the shape of the graph. We want to answer, is it open up or open down? Well, if you look at the equation, the coefficient of x squared is 1. The number in front of x squared is 1. Now because that's greater than 0, we've learnt that the graph is always open up. It has a shape which looks like this, open up, or a smiley face. Secondly, the y-intercept. Well, we know the y-intercept occurs always when x equals 0. So we can substitute x equals 0 into the equation here. If x equals 0, this is 0, this is 0, so the y value is negative 8. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 8. X-intercepts. We know that any graph cuts the x-axis at y equals 0. So if we substitute y equals 0 into this equation, we get x squared plus 2x take 8 equals 0. And now we have to call upon work we did in the previous topic. We have to factorise this. We've got to find two numbers whose sum is 2 and whose product is negative 8. Now if you think about that, you can see that the numbers are 4 and negative 2. 4 add negative 2 is 2, correct? 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And remember, that tells us that this expression here factorises to x plus 4, x take 2. So x plus 4, x take 2 equals 0. We can then use the null factor law. One of these factors must be equal to 0, which leads us to either x equals negative 4 or x is equal to 2. So when y equals 0, x is negative 4 or 2 tells us that the x-intercepts are negative 4, 0 or 2, 0. From there we can work out the turning point. Well, first of all, we can work out the x value of the turning point, where the graph turns. The x value of the turning point is always halfway through between the x-intercepts, halfway between these two numbers. In other words, halfway between negative 4 and 2, which happens to be negative 1. If you can't see that, one way to think about it is just to find the average. The average of negative 4 and 2 is negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2, divided by 2 because it's the average of two numbers, and the answer is negative 1. So there we have the x value of the vertex, or the turning point. To find the y value, we have to substitute back into here to find the corresponding y value. And when we do that, it is negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1, take 8, and the answer to that is negative 9. So we know that our turning point is x number negative 1, y number negative 9, in other words negative 1, negative 9. And lastly, we know the graph is symmetrical about a vertical line. It's the vertical line through the vertex. Now the vertical line through the vertex has an x number of negative 1, so the equation is x equals negative 1. So there we have it, all the key features of a quadratic graph, which then we can use to plot the graph. Firstly, let's plot the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0, negative 8. So here we plot it. Now let's plot the x-intercepts. They were negative 4, 0, negative 4, 0, and 2, 0. The turning point, or the vertex, is negative 1, negative 9. So x is negative 1, y is negative 9. We plot that. And that's good enough then for us to sketch the graph. The only way we can really draw it of a quadratic shape is like this. And we're checking it's correct. We know the graph is going to be open up. It's going to have a shape which looks like this. So then we do the best we can to draw our quadratic shape, symmetrical about this line here, x equals negative 1. So when we do that with a nice smooth curve, there's the graph that we have, our typical graph of a quadratic called a parabola.